Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show, helping our people get their finances in shape. Welcome, everyone, to another action packed full of information for you this December the 14th. So glad everybody joined us. How you doing today, Dope?
Man, I am happy to be alive. Happy to be back here in the States, and well, the real States. But I'm happy.
Yeah, I hear that, man. It's a blessing, right? You've been traveling again. Where were you the last time
Virgin
you were?
Islands.
How was that?
It's nice. The weather, man, the weather is perfect. Stay between 79 and 83.
Whoa.
Good food, nice people, nice weather, and a nice beach.
Okay, that sounds like, especially for this time of the year, man. I woke up the other day, we had snow on the ground.
Really?
Kind of,
Oh man,
yeah, man. It kind of
you
threw
come
me
down here
off.
to Charlotte, man. We might see snow once a year.
Wow, that's so interesting. So last week our show was on electric vehicles, and we hope we gave you a lot of information that you can use if you are considering um, buying an electric vehicle, or if you just want to know more about them. So there's a lot of information. We got a lot of good responses back from that. So thank you for all the questions and comments. We really appreciate that. Um, Thank you, everybody. As always, we got another show full with information. We're going to be talking about the 2023 year-end moves to make. Now, we know we talked in October about year-end moves to make as far as taxes, but we're going to talk about the overall things that you need to be considering when you talk about your financial plan and your whole financial scenario. There's a lot of things you need to take advantage of if you didn't. And if you did, it's always good to just check on those type of things. So, stay tuned as we always say, hold on because we got a lot of information, 20 pounds of knowledge in a 10-pound bag. So dope. Let's start at the top of the hour with, the stock market. So do you have any good news for us today?
Man, we got great news. The stock market has been rolling. And actually, Dow has set two records in a row, two record closes in a row. The Fed didn't raise interest rates Wednesday at their meeting and kind of indicated that they're probably going to start lowering rates next year. And it's like everything is going perfect, which makes me a little bit leery because they expected the retail sales to be a little light, but they came in strong. So it's a lot of crazy stuff's going on right now that doesn't make a lot of sense. So hopefully things will continue to be good. But right now everybody's reacting to the fact that interest rates should be lower next year, and things we didn't go into a recession. It doesn't look like so far, but I mean this thing could change in a dime. So we don't get too low when the stock market goes down, and we don't get too high when it goes up because we know we're looking at the long play, and hopefully over time it's going to continue to go up. You can see for the past week the Dow is up over 8,000 points, 3.1%, and as I mentioned, it Dow closed for the first time over 37,000. So that's pretty good. Nasdaq's up only 2.9%, but Nasdaq has had a pretty good year, so things are starting to moderate. Microsoft actually went down 2 days in a row, and it's down to 366, down 5 points. Tesla's up, but again, if you watch Tesla, it's up 1 day big, down 1 day big. So right now it's up. It's up 8 points in the past week, or 3%. Apple actually hit an all-time high today. Didn't close at that all-time high, but it hit an inter-day record high. But for the week, it's up 4, and Pfizer continues to take it on the chin. It's down 3. If this stock wasn't paying me a 6% dividend, I would probably dump it. But I think I'm going to continue to hold because I don't think it can go much lower. I think I should be at the bottom here. And finally, Nvidia is up again, and it's been kind of streaky too, kind of up and down, but it's up 18 points in the last week. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, you don't get too happy when things are going up, and you don't get too sad when they're going down. And we just hope everything is as it appears to be right now, which as the Fed has gone dovish and in saying that they're not going to continue to cut interest rates, and hopefully things will stay strong enough that we won't fall into a recession. But everybody's kind of expecting interest rates to go down, which is kind of crazy because the economy looks like it's pretty strong. So you cut interest rates to spur the economy. So I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon. A lot of people are expecting interest rates to get cut in March, but we'll have to see how that goes. So just hang tight.
Yeah, well, for the year, the market has been doing very well for year to date, and that's very good. And the gold, though, it's man, normally it's an inverted action, but the gold is, it went down below 200, 2,000. Now it's back over 2,000 by about $50. It went up about $50 just in one swing. I was like,
Wow.
wow. Silver is back up, and my semiconductor stock, which is NXP, they up $11 because I kind of look at Nvidia, who is the bigger boy of them,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're still in the same market, but they flowing at the same rate. So that's been a very good stock for me. And Ford is starting to crawl back up there, though. And GE, believe it or not, is starting to crawl up. So I don't know what's going on there, because General Electric was that stock that they were into everything, but they got out of the financing bit. But
How's your Bitcoin doing, man?
yeah, that's a good question, though. The Bitcoin is down, believe it or not, $307, but the actual cryptocurrency market was up about 29 billion. It's up to about 1.7 trillion. Last week it was 1.6, so that's kind of interesting that the market's been up. I mean, the cryptocurrency has been up, yet Ethereum and the Bitcoin has gone down. But the Bitcoin still is at $43,063. So you still should be up if you um, got in at say the end of last year. Um, you should be up. Ethereum, the smart contract, is down 2%. That's about $2,316 a Ethereum coin. Tether, which is tied to the dollar, is still keeping pace with the dollar. And dope, Solana, which we started tracking. Ever since I've been tracking Solana, it's been going up every week. It's now up $7.50 to $75.66. It's up 11%. That cryptocurrency, I don't know why, it's moving like that, but people must like it.
Hmm.
And it's up every week. It's been going up ever since we've been tracking. I think we've been tracking it for about 4 weeks now, and it's been going up every week. And the Dogecoin, the dog coin, is still just staying where it's at. So that's it for the cryptocurrency market, which is actually is doing very well considering what happened in 2022 and 2021. So that sums it up right there for us. Dope. Let's get in and talk about our topic today, which is things that the moves that people need to make before the end of the year, and in some cases by April the 15th.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to do before January 1. I mean, there's certain changes you need to make to your finances, and you need to get it done before the end of the year. And a lot of times you don't know, and you don't know what to do. But we're going to talk about some of the things some adjustments you should make prior to the end of the year. And this will get you ready to build wealth in 2024. So, year-end review it's the perfect time to get your house in order. Several things to look at. Make sure you don't miss out in 2023 as far as your taxes, tax deductions, your charitable contributions, your IRAs/401ks, your health savings accounts, flexible spending accounts. There's a lot of things you need to look at before the year end because once the year ends, you pretty much stuck. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening.
Yeah, though, it's the year end is a good time to look back on the events that that shaped the last 12 months, prepare for what may lie ahead. Now, for maximizing the taxes, like you said, to just plain old life events that might have occurred that can affect your financial portfolio. Now, some of the things you need to consider, and we're going to get into it, is you need to set 2024 goals now. Starting your 2024 budget now can help prevent both unwarranted debt and regret that you know, regret comes for the new year. Now, also practice saying no to requests. Now, this is the time of year, especially holidays. Too often we do what others want us to do around this time of the year, like buying gifts, and then we find ourselves in a position that really is not best for us or our families or our mental health. So, when you do get a request beyond your capacity, prepare to say no. And I find that so hard too myself, though, sometimes. Sometimes you got to say no. Explore your motivations around this holiday spending. Because understanding your motivations for spending can help you reinforce boundaries and potentially establish new money beliefs rooted in values that you want to emulate. For example, you realize you overspend on gifts because you were taught by your parents that gifts are the best way to show love. You may decide on giving intangible gifts this year, gifts of time or love, or more important, or some things like love, which is more important to you. Now, remember, holiday pressure is normal. Holiday pressure is real, and it can cause us to exceed our budget. So, recognizing that the pressure exists and that the marketing is doing its job can help you remember that you have to stick to your own goals, because the new year comes, we end up spending all this money, and then we have to deal with all those bills. So this is the time to do your check system and get your house in order. So the question is, what are some practical action items for people to make as we approach year end? And hint, it's not just checking your account balance more frequently.
If anybody's been watching the show, they know the first thing I'm going to say is review your financial plan. I mean, look at your spending patterns. Look at where you spent money and where you overspent and underspent. Did you make your goals? Look at your goals. Did you set uh, early this year or late last year? And did you achieve your goals? And make sure you understand why or why not. Look at a complete review. Look at all your spending. See if you have any extra money left over. Could you have invested a little bit more? Uh, are there things you could have cut spending on? Take a look at your long-term goals. Are you still on track to meet what your long-term goals are? If you have a financial advisor, it's time to sit down with them and make sure everybody's on the same page, or whoever you uh, are handling your money with. This is a good time to sit down with them and discuss these things. Make sure you're on track. Make sure you're doing things the way you want them to be done.
So if you are still working, you need to really look at your employee benefits now. Are you able to max out your employee sponsored 401k or 5457 plans, 403 plans, and your IRA account contributions? If your employee matches contributions, will you contribute up to, at minimum, the company match? Because don't leave any money on the table. This is the time that you can do it. Review your allocation. Are you happy with the ratio of stocks, bonds, and other assets, or do you need to rebalance? We don't do that enough, because a lot of times it's all built on your risk tolerance. But if you can take a little bit more risk, you might not want to put everything in low risk, and you're not getting the maximum return from the market. Now you need to review your health, life, disability insurance. That's your job. Do you need to make changes? And this is the open enrollment period, so you need to really go back and make sure. Now, if you are enrolled in a health savings account, have you maxed out the contributions for the year? Are you enrolled in a flexible spending account? Do you need to use up any remaining funds, or can you um, roll them over? Do you need to adjust your withholdings based on this year's spending? For the current tax year, the maximum 401k contribution is 22,500 plus an additional 7,500 if you're 50 and up. That's they call it the cap, right? And so that gives you, $30,000. So the maximum employees sponsor plans got bigger boosts for 2024. You can in 2024 next year you can put up to 23,000, and the catch up is 7,500. So it's about a $500 increase. So for your IRA, the maximum contribution for this year is $6,500 plus the catch up of 50 years and older of $1,000. Now, if you're not maxing out your contributions, consider at least increasing it at an annual basis. Now, for 2024, our IRAs are going up to $7,000 maximum and $1,000 catch up. Now, you can calculate your remaining health insurance deductible and determine if you can accelerate or postpone medical treatments. That's a little trick that people don't understand. That you can look at and calculate some of the things that you may have up, and you may not. You might defer them into the next year if you can. The medical treatments, if you can have the luxury of postponing them. Now, for the current tax year, the maximum health savings account contributions are $3,850 for individuals and $7,750 for families, and additional $1,000 for individuals 55 of those, not 50, 55 and up. Now for 2024, the health savings accounts are going to $4,150 for individuals and $8,300 for families, and additional $1,000 for individual catch-up. Now, if you use up your flexible savings account, there are some qualified products you may not have thought of, that you can use for your flexible spending account. For one, for contact lenses, solutions, and to bandages, which you can purchase with those funds.
Okay. The next one is a little tricky, and this is one that you may need to get some help on, but that's taxes, and we've touched on this throughout the year, but there's still some things you got to look at because there's a lot of money you could leave on the table if you don't handle your taxes the right way. You look at your portfolio and you note if you have any big investment losses this year. And if you do, you got to take a look and see, should you recognize that loss? Do you need it to offset a gain that you may have? You need to understand the long-term capital gain implications and what things you can do there. Look at your income. And maybe you can defer a bonus if you think you'll be in a lower tax bracket next year. Or you may be able to accelerate some income if you think you're in a lower tax bracket this year. But you need to look at those things right now while you still have a chance to adjust those. Look at your tax exemptions, make sure you're at least close to where you need to be, because you don't want to end up having to pay a penalty or interest because you under withheld. If you plan on opening an IRA, either a Roth or a traditional IRA, you have until April 15th of next year. That's one of the few things that you can do next year that will still count for the 2023 tax year. So if you want to make a Roth conversion as opposed to a Roth contribution, you have to do the conversion by December 31st. So make sure you understand that. We talked about tax harvesting before. That's if you have you have a gain, and you can use a loss on the stock to offset it. And again, if it's a stock that you like and you want to keep, and you want to take the loss and buy it back, remember the wash rule, because you have to wait 30 days to buy that stock back in order to recognize the gain in the prior year. So make sure you understand that. And we talked about accelerating deductions. If you think you can reach the amount where you can itemize your deductions, you might want to pay your property taxes this year as opposed to waiting until January or February, whenever they're due. You can pay them in advance. You can do the same thing with your state income taxes if you know you're going to be short. You can move your deductions based on when you pay those things. And so if you want to uh, increase that bucket of what you can itemize, there are things you can do there by moving your deductions between one period and the next. Another area to take a look at is deductible charitable contribution. Uh, you have to give a lot given the current tax system and the way the standard deduction is so high right now. So you have to have a lot of money. You have to have contributed a lot of money. And I think I mentioned before, you might want to do it every other year and bulk up in one year just to help you reach the threshold where you can get some mileage out of itemizing. And the same thing with a lot of the other things related to taxes. You have to make your contributions by December 31st. Okay. Uh, Now, a couple ways you can get tricky is by contributing things out of your IRA and making sure you get the tax deduction. You can also donate appreciated assets, and that'll save you recognizing that capital gain. And so there's a few things you can do there. And for IRAs, I think Bob mentioned before that you can contribute. He talked about how much you contribute up to, I think it was $6,500. And if you're over 50, you get an extra $1,000. Your 401k, the maximum amount is 22,500. If you happen to be over 50, you can contribute 30,000. So those are all the kind of things you can look at. Uh, See if you need to make adjustments this year. Uh, Look at your whole tax situation now, and you may decide that you're close to a threshold by which, if you donated more money, that might kick you into a lower tax bracket. So those are all the things you should look at before the year end, while you still have time to make adjustments. Okay, that's the important thing here. You don't want to wait till January and go, oh, I wish I would have contributed X amount of dollars last year. Those are things you look at now. Okay. Uh, and again, donate appreciate an asset. If you want to make a contribution and you don't want to recognize the capital gain, you can donate that asset to a charity. They don't. They end up with the total value of the appreciated asset, and you don't have to recognize that capital gain. So a lot of things to look at. If you need to get professional help, do that before the end of the year. Basically, once the year closes, all the tax professional can do for you is put together what's already happened, as opposed to making adjustments or making some changes that might put a few more dollars in your pocket.
Let's talk about investments, though. Things you need to, check and moves you need to make before December 31st. Like, has your asset allocation shifted during the year? I mean, that happens to a lot of people, especially if you had, say, equities, and you were going, with the low. You had other um, assets in there that were sort of like more safe assets, like money markets and stuff. It's very easy for the equity side, if you were like 50-50, that now, since the market has been doing so good for the year, your equities now could be 70% of your portfolio and 30% of your low risk assets. So you might want to look at that, because that can occur. And if you want to stay at a certain balance, that's what you need to make sure you do. Now, does your risk tolerance meet your timeline and goals? We don't do that enough. We don't actually look at our what is the time frame we want certain things to happen, and then take the risk that we need to. You need to always check that. Because I mean, just like our value changes, our risk tolerance changes. Now, did you see large capital gains for the tax year? You need to look at that. See if you need to take advantage of that. See, or and that you're going to need to be reporting it. Have you contributed to a 529 plan? For your kids and grandkids. Look at that, because you have up until the December the 31st that you can drop some money in there. It's not too late. And do you have the appropriate tax diversification within your portfolio? We always talk about that, right? We always talk about, the pre-tax, after-tax, and the tax-free. You always look at, how to manage those taxes. And so, do you have the right tax diversification for your portfolio? Next, outperforming and underperforming assets might leave your portfolio unbalanced. That's another thing that can give imbalance in your portfolio. So be sure to review your asset allocation and rebalance, like I said, is needed. Now, make a note of any capital gains or investment losses. As the end of the year approaches, keep a close watch on proposed tax policy changes and work with your tax advisor or a tax advisor to determine if you should accelerate capital gains or, as Doe talked about before, about harvest tax losses for 2023.
The next area is credit and your debt. You got to take a look at that. You need to look at your loan positions, make sure you're getting the most favorable rates, terms. Interest rates have gone up. If you got money sitting in a checking account, then you're probably not maximizing how much return you're getting. There are CDs out there that are paying over 5%, and money markets that are paying over 5%. High interest savings accounts that are paying decent percent. You got to look at those kind of things to make sure you're maximizing your money. Like, look to see if you made any progress paying down your debt, and that's something you should consider. Ways to look for ways to minimize your total interest payments by prioritizing high interest rate debt, or maybe getting a consolidation loan. You got to pay attention now because interest rates are high. And so you want to make sure you're paying as little as possible. And sometimes it's just a matter of doing some research and finding a cheaper interest rate. Uh, are there things you're using on your credit card that you're putting on your credit card that you might not really need? Look at how you balance your debt and your goals and see if you can make some progress there to make sure you're prioritizing each. And again, looking at what you're saving. And look at all the terms on any outstanding debt you have to make sure you got the best rate possible. I can't stress that enough because a 1% savings could put more money in your pocket. You can take that money and either invest it or use it to pay down some debt or just use it to enjoy yourself. Look at credit cards that pay reward points. That's something I live on and get a lot of money in my pocket every year just for using a credit card and maximizing which one I use. And also for travel, there's perks I get from traveling from using these cards. So take a look at your total credit and debt and interest rate situations. Make sure you're paying as little as possible and earning as much as possible.
Another thing on the line of paying off your credit card debt, we've always talked about it. I just want to remind people about the avalanche method and the snowball method. The avalanche method is pay off the credit card with the highest interest rate and prioritize from the highest to the lowest and pay it off like that. Another one is a snowball where you pay off the one with the smallest balance and work your way up. And that way you can feel like you're making some accomplishments. That's the theory behind the snowball. But look it up, the avalanche method or the snowball method if you need, some tools on helping you pay off your credit card. We want to talk about estate planning because a lot of people sometimes be sleeping on, making the beneficiary changes. Now, have you reviewed your will or trust? Do you have a will or trust? And especially a medical directive. We all need those, and you need to look and check to see the last 5 years or more currently if there has been a recent life event like marriage, divorce, death, income, change in family dynamics. Have you experienced any life transitions in the last year that could affect your will or trust? Meaning, births, marriages, deaths, retirement date. That can change some things. This is the big one. Are your beneficiaries and trustee designations up to date? Up to date. I know with me, because I had a younger daughter, my wife was, had her 100%. But now that my daughter's 20 years old, I'm changing my beneficiaries to give her, because she's old enough to receive money herself instead of me just giving it to her mother to give to her. So little things like that. Do you know how you could be impacted by potential tax law changes? Because that can affect your estate planning. And then you have the gift tax exclusion. Monetary gifts up to $6,000 to any recipient are federally tax free.
And next we have insurance. And again, this is one of those things that it's boring, but it can save you money. You look at your policy and coverage. We talked about the 80-20 rule before, to make sure you have at least 80% of the value of your home insured based on the replacement cost of your home. Look at cost comparisons, compare and make sure. And it's very easy to compare because you can look and say, this is what the coverage I want. How much does it cost? And it's just a matter of doing the comparative shopping. Make sure if you have separate things that aren't covered, like usually they only cover 1,000, 2,000 of your jewelry. If you have expensive jewelry, make sure you have a separate policy to cover those kind of things that may not be covered under your policies. And if you have kids, you may want to consider an umbrella policy if they're starting to drive, because they're usually going to have little fender benders, and you just got to hope they don't hit anything that's very expensive. So make sure you look at those kind of things to see that you have the proper coverage. Uh, Another thing, which a lot of people aren't aware, especially if you're in that 30 to 50 age group, a lot of people will get life insurance, but they don't get disability insurance. And from what I've read, you're more likely to get disabled than actually die. So make sure you have enough coverage there if something happens to you. If you have a spouse that works, you obviously need to have insurance on her if something happens to her. If you have a spouse that don't work and you have young kids, you need to have insurance in case something happens to her, because you'll need someone to take care of your kids. So look at your entire situation, make sure you understand what your needs are, and get an insurance plan that fits your needs. And you got to be careful. You got to have an insurance agent that trust, because obviously the more insurance you buy, the more money he's going to make. You don't want to be overinsured, but you want to make sure you're covered for the things that you need or may need. And that's something they can help you decide, but you need to figure out on your own, just so you don't get oversold. Uh, like Bob mentioned, when you're looking at your insurance, make sure your beneficiaries are up to date, and if anything needs to be changed. And I mean, you can go out on Google and just say, how much insurance do I need? And figure it out. And it's really, again, pretty simple to say, if I die, how much money would be needed to carry on, or to keep your family in the lifestyle that you want to have them in if something happens to you. If you have kids, you might have to be worried about having enough money to pay for college. So these are things you ought to look at, and if you put them off and you end up getting caught short, you can end up in a big bind, which will make a bad situation worse. So take the time to review these things and get a feel for where you are, what you need, and then comparison shop to make sure you get the price on that particular product.
On the insurance topic, though, a lot of people are underinsured a lot of times, and you really need to look at that, especially with the auto, because a lot of people usually take the minimum to try to keep their premiums down. But nowadays, with everybody driving an expensive car, Mercedes and Teslas and things like that, you might want to make sure you look at your liability insurance. I mean, your comprehensive insurance, and bodily harm, because nowadays people they'll they'll sue you for big amounts, and it used to be people would get the minimum, which is I think about $100,000, and that's not even enough nowadays. So please review that insurance policy, or when it comes to that. I want to also bring to everybody's attention. We covered a lot of things, and I want to go back and talk about one other thing as far as we talk about investments. This is a good time to look at your investments because remember we always talk about it's the long play, but with high yield savings accounts now, it's pretty interesting. And this might be the time if you don't not a big risk taker, you might want to move that money into some of these high yield savings accounts, and knowing that interest rates may be changing. The good thing about CDs is you lock them in for 6 months, so you can keep that rate. If you're just a person who is not a major risk taker, but you want to take advantage of these days and times, some of those high yield accounts, and this is the time to look at it. To see, instead of leaving my money in a savings account that's getting less than 1%, why don't I move it in a high yield account that I'm getting about 4 or 5%? Why not? Because look, if you put $1,000 in there at 5%, that's $50. And if it's $10,000, it's $500 a year. Now you may not think that's a lot, but that stuff start adding up. You want your money to be working for you. But those are things you need to be looking at because there's a lot of moving parts. And while you asleep, money is working. Okay, money does never stop, and that's why you got to be on this and make sure. There's so much fraud right now, you all. This is a perfect time to go and note is a major proponent of when you start talking about credit cards having like freezes on your accounts because this is the time of the year that there's a lot of identity theft because people are out there online and just spending money for Christmas, and you can your information is so out there, but you might want to consider looking at one of the major credit bills, if not all of them, and put some freezes on your account. That way, you protect yourself. The other
Yeah,
thing
but
is have some limits on your credit cards or notifications, excuse me, alerts, fraud alerts. This is the time to do it, you all.
yeah, a lot of people drop their guard with the holiday season because they're so busy and festive. But the scammers are rolling. The new hot one is you get an email or a text saying they can't deliver your product. It's UPS or FedEx or the postal service, and they call and they send you information asking. End up asking for some personal information. So just be aware of that. Of These scammers are really working hard this time of year. I guess they got to buy Christmas presents too, or they got to steal them or whatever. And if you're getting something from Amazon and it's valuable and you're not going to be home, send it to a locker. Those things work really well.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and you just go in, you put a code in, and boom, you got your product. So be aware of scammers. You don't want to do all the things we talk about as far as taking care of your money and building your wealth, then have a scammer steal it all. Just be very cautious of emails you get, of texts you get, of phone calls you get, and just don't give out information. And it's like Bob mentioned your credit files. I have all three of mine locked. And if I needed to borrow money, I would unlock. I'd ask them which one they use, and I'd go to my phone and unlock that one. And then as soon as they do their inquiry, I'd lock it back. Uh, and make sure you are getting the alerts. Bob mentioned that, but that is so critical now because it's people are just running rampant. I think we've told you before. Watch using debit cards because that's like cash, and if somebody gets their hands on that, they get that cash. With a credit card, you can always refuse to pay, or a lot of times the credit card issuer will give you grace on people stealing uh, using your credit card. But if it's a debit card, they're getting cash. They're getting your cash money. So make
No,
sure
right
you're
there.
wise. Huh?
Can I just come in on about the debit card?
Uh-huh.
This is what people don't understand about the debit card. Why the difference between the debit card and the credit card? Like you said, card at at a minimum or maximum, excuse me, they will return your money within 3 days. But the reason why it takes 30, 60 to 90 days if your money stole your debit card is because they have to go and research. And what people don't know, the servicer, the people that runs the computers and keep all the money in the bank, they're not in the bank. Bank do not have services. So that servicer, your bank could be here in D.C. and the servicer is in Tacoma, Washington. So they got to go contact them, and then the fraud company might be in Kansas City. So between going through back checking all of those different, that's why it takes 30, 60 to 90 days. Credit card, boom. Like I said, up to 3 days. And if you have a fraudulent item, not a fraudulent item, a defective item, you can get that replaced like that. But have the money come out of your account, you should never use the debit card. And plus, at least you're getting credit using the credit card. You're not getting no credit using a debit card. So I just want to jump in there and just let people understand why, we keep saying, don't use that debit card, use a credit card. It's so
Yeah.
important.
And one more point with that. And again, everybody probably thinks I'm just a penny pincher, but I wear that tag proudly because I try to save money everywhere I can. But the other thing about using a credit card is, let's say your cutoff date or your billing date is the 10th of the month. You buy something on the 12th, right after your billing date, you get almost 2 months to before you have to pay for it, right?
Right.
Assuming you are paying your bill every month. Let's make that assumption because otherwise you're paying interest the day you buy it. But so when you're paying your bill every month, you can kind of get extra days to pay for stuff. And with interest rates being 5% versus 0 or 1%, your money's still working for you until you pay that bill. So you're basically playing the float by leaving your money in your account until the bill is due. And the money's working for you during that time. And then when the bill is due, then you pay it. And your money's worked for you that whole period. So if you got a big purchase, buy it right after your cutoff date, and you get extra time to pay for it.
Hey, Doe, I just found that out with this credit card company because I had fraud on my credit card. So I was talking to, and it's interesting, though, like what you say. Say your um, due date is the 12th of the month. They told me that they give you a grace period past that 12th date. I was like, whoa. I mean, meaning as far as your credit goes, now they're going to charge you, but interest, but it's not going to affect your credit, like meaning that it's past due. I
Uh-huh.
didn't know that. I didn't know they gave you grace period. It's somewhere any 5 to 10 days afterwards. They said, "Nah, we won't report it." I'm like, "Wow!" But that's the thing that we just said. Make sure you at least know all the rules and the stuff that you are in. Know what you got and understand the tax laws around it. Understand the truth in lending and disclosure laws. Understand these things. Understand if you're in the cryptocurrency. Understand which particular cryptocurrency you're in, and that's how you can, at least protect some of your money. But just don't let people take your money because you don't know. But it was one other point I was going to make too, though, and boom. Anyway, I'm getting old. It slid me, but it's we know we're giving you a lot. But I know what it was, though. The dark web, excuse me, the dark web being out there. Because like I say, right now everybody's out there, and if it's like my wife, she's I call her Nettie Betty. She does most everything on the internet and purchase. I'm a person though. I got to see the product. I gotta go. I rather go to the store and see it instead of return it. But you got to be careful of some of these sites you go on because, especially with these subscriptions that you make, it's like they make it easy for you to get in, but it make it hard for you to cancel the subscription. You know what I mean? They call that roach motels. Believe it or not, though, that's the term. Roach motel, like a roach motel, when the roach go in, it can't get out. And so make sure when you go and subscribe to these things, make sure you read how to get out of them because that's catching a lot of people. So with that, though, let's go to the takeaways, because we definitely talked about a lot today, man. I mean, there's so much information, and that's what we specialize in. Let's go to the video. All righty. So, first up is the Bobster, right? Yes.
You,
Review your financial plan. It is so important. Don't say this at the top of the show. Review all the components of your plan because things are ever changing. Money is active even when you sleep. Money is working. So you want to make sure you're on top of your plan. Make sure you understand your risk tolerance. Make sure the things that you have are in alignment with your um, time horizons. You know, make sure that everything is in align with what you expect to do.
yeah, next you got to adjust as necessary and understand if you're not reaching your goals, understand why, what things you need to, adjustments you need to make in order to reach your goals. You have to take a look at it, analyze it, figure out a new plan, and move forward.
You must review your taxes and investments to avoid surprises. That is so key, especially the taxes and like I said, on your investments. You know, the capital gains. You need to make sure there are no surprises, no you know tax bills that come up that you wasn't sure of that got reported as capital gains. But please review your taxes, and if you need help, get a CPA, get an accountant to make sure that you, because the laws are always laws are always changing, the tax laws, and you need to be up on them.
Yeah, and a lot of people are very benevolent when it comes to giving. They enjoy giving. Well, make sure you maximize it and getting a tax break if you can. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're giving a lot of money, again, look at what your standard deduction is, and if you don't give enough to uh, surpass the threshold for the standard deduction, okay, maybe you give all your money in one year, and the next year you don't. You do it every other year just to bulk up the amount so you can pass the threshold. And look at other ways you can do it by uh, giving appreciated assets, by doing rolling it out of your IRAs. There's a bunch of things you can do to continue to give like you're giving, and also get tax deductions out of it.
Maximize your employee benefits. That's your 401k, 403b, 457. Maximize it so that you can make sure you're getting the match. If you got health savings accounts, you know, make sure you know you maximizing the benefit there. Flexible spending accounts. These are all things that, and there's so many other benefits. Like a lot of your companies have stock option plans. You need to make sure that you maximize all the benefits that they're giving you. This is open enrollment time for health insurance, so make sure you are in the right, you got the right health insurance plan for the right medical needs and treatments that you're going to have. You want to make sure you maximize your benefits there.
Yeah, this is a critical checkpoint. Again, look at your growth building performance and see how you're doing. But it's also critical because you can still make some adjustments now before the end of the year. And there's nothing like knowing you did everything you could do to maximize your wealth. And I've had very few years where I could honestly say I did everything I could do. There's always something you can do better, but I never make the same mistake twice. I always learn from what I did wrong. But I do a review, see where I can improve, see where I can do better, see what things I can do to make sure my wealth continues to grow. And it just takes some time and a little bit of work, but believe me, it's worth it.
Yes. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Linda, my sister, Gloria, my sister, Garnett, glad you're here. And Rodney, who came, he said he was listening, but he forgot to say hello. TheNoteExperience.com. Yeah, let us know about those notes, Rodney. How's that going for you? Put some comments in there. when next time we talk, let us know how's it going as an alternative investment. Thank everybody for tuning in. We'll be here next week, which would be the what's that? The 31st? No, what is next week?
Yeah, 21st.
21st. I mean, yeah, 21st. Excuse me. We're gearing up for Christmas, so tune in, and we won't be doing it the week of Christmas, right?
Correct.
We're gonna take a break there, but next week will be our last week for the year, and I guarantee you we'll have some really important and interesting information to help you build and generate wealth. And actually, we're hoping that you preserve your wealth. So with that, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. It will be our 130th show, though. Good gracious, we on a roll, dude. So we'll see you next week, and thank everybody for tuning in. Remember, share. Go out there and share this information. Have a good night.